In her Spokane, Washington neighborhood on March 6, 1959, a 9-year-old named Candace Candy Rogers was selling more Girl Scout cookies than anyone else. It was typical for children to be out on their own during that time. However, as evening approached and Candy didn't come back, people became worried and reported her as missing. The entire community mobilized to search for her. What could have happened to Candy? Why didn't she return home as she always did before nightfall? Could something terrible have occurred? Today, we will explore one of the oldest unsolved cases, which remained a mystery for over 60 years until recently. Without further delay, let's dive into this intriguing puzzle. In Spokane, Washington, a city known as the Lilac City, our story begins. It's the largest city in the state, located in eastern Washington near the Spokane River and Selkirk Mountains. With a population of over 220,000 people and covering an area of about 70 square miles, Spokane boasts a vibrant culture filled with museums, theaters, and the famous Spokane Hoop Fest, the world's largest basketball tournament. On July 13, 1949, Carl and Elaine Rogers welcomed their daughter Candace into the world. Growing up in Spokane, she enjoyed a carefree childhood, cherished by her loving family and friends who affectionately called her Candy. Candace was a friendly and outgoing child, always eager to make new friends. She attended Holmes Elementary School, where she was adored by both her peers and teachers. At the age of 9, she joined the Campfire Girls, a Girl Scout organization, and took on the responsibility of selling campfire mints to raise funds for their trips. March 6, 1959 started as an ordinary Friday in Spokane. After her usual day at school, Candy headed home and then set off to sell her campfire mints in her neighborhood. It was customary for her to go door to door in her town, as her parents trusted the safety of the area and expected her to return before dark. However, as the day wore on, their concern grew when she failed to return home. Evening arrived and Candy still hadn't returned home, causing panic to set in. Her disappearance was reported to the police, triggering a community-wide search effort. However, in 1959, without the technological advancements of today, such as GPS, cameras, and cell phones, the searchers had limited resources. The only lead they found were boxes of campfire mints, the same ones Candy was selling, on Pettit Drive heading north from her neighborhood. Over 1,200 volunteers, including the U.S. Air Force, joined the search for Candy, scouring the city and surrounding areas. Tragically, a helicopter involved in the search crashed into the Spokane River, resulting in the deaths of 3 crew members. Despite the tireless efforts, Candy remained missing, and hope began to fade among the dwindling number of volunteers. 2 weeks later, 2 airmen hunting in the woods discovered a pair of girls' shoes that they suspected belonged to Candy. A search party was organized, and shortly after, Candy's body was found buried under brush and pine needles. Her parents' worst fears were confirmed. She had been cruelly strangled to death and sexually assaulted. Forensic science in 1959 was limited, and DNA analysis did not exist. The evidence collected from the crime scene, including Candy's clothing, was preserved in the hopes that future advancements would help solve the case. The police appealed to the public for leads, but the investigation yielded few useful tips. Several suspects emerged, but none were definitively linked to the murder. Hugh Bernard Morse, a serial killer active during that time, was initially considered a suspect due to a piece of grape chewing gum found on Candy's body. However, DNA evidence in 2001 ruled him out. Another suspect, Alfred Graves, was investigated for inappropriate contact with women, but his suicide prevented further investigation. James Howard Barnett, also suspected, hanged himself in his cell shortly after his arrest. The case eventually went cold, but succeeding generations of Spokane police investigators refused to let it go. In 2021, Sergeant Jack Stormond and retired detective Brian Hammond caught a breakthrough. The preserved semen sample from Candy's clothing was sent to a private genome sequencing company, which identified potential matches in a genealogy database. Kathy Hoff, the daughter of John Ray Hoff, provided a DNA sample that matched the evidence from the crime scene. However, they discovered that John had taken his own life in 1970. John Ray Hoff, who lived close to Candy and had connections through his sister's Campfire Girls troupe, had assaulted and murdered her when he was 20 years old. After the murder, he committed another assault but was convicted and served a short sentence. Police exhumed Hoff's body to confirm his guilt, ensuring there was no doubt. After more than 6 decades, justice had been served, even though many of Candy's relatives had passed away without knowing the truth. Candy's cousin, Joanne Pass, expressed a mix of satisfaction and sadness upon hearing the news. When the case was finally closed, Candy's parents went to their graves without answers. The Spokane detectives, who had tirelessly pursued the case for over 60 years, felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. The story of Candy's murder serves as a testament to the dedication of the investigators who never allowed her memory to fade away. As the 60-year-old cold case was finally solved, we can only hope that Candy is resting peacefully. The story highlights the commitment of the generations of detectives who refused to give up. Their unwavering determination led to the resolution of a case often regarded as insurmountable.